Okay, greetings. So, just before the election, I posted a question on our WhatsApp channel. That's the Old Harbour News WhatsApp channel, seeking the public's feedback on some of the most pressing matters in relation to the fact that Old Harbour is the fastest growing town on the island. Now, this was a couple of weeks before the election, July 23rd to be exact. So the question was necessary, I believe, to gauge the public's the most important issues that is on the public's mind. So some of the topics that was listed, or some of the topics that I listed was more roads, improve access to water. Do you think we need a hospital? Having a community park, a new high school, a proper public beach, greater access to land, investment in agriculture, the construction of a government town centre, the construction of a multi-purpose sports complex with a stadium and an arena as well. And also, do you think we need to build more houses? So I think those are some of the most important topics currently, given what I would have experienced in my day-to-day interactions with members of the public and the issues some of them will also raise with me. So a month, well, more than a month later, I decided to look at the votes and see, which area is considered the most important, which issue is in the eyes of the public the most important right now. Now, before I get into that, I just want to let you know that this was done on WhatsApp, and I tried to, well, with WhatsApp, you are not able to get all the total number of persons who participated in the vote, the total number of persons who participated in this exercise. But what you can determine though is the least amount of persons who participated. So based on the respondents, 77 votes, and this was the maximum, 77 votes see persons calling for the building of more roads to alleviate the traffic congestion. So this is a clear top priority in the minds of the general public within the Old Harbour space. So I believe though that this should not come as a surprise though. If you look at the rapid development of Old Harbour, whether you work, you live in Old Harbour, you do business in Old Harbour, or you travel through the town on a regular basis, you realize that traffic is a big issue nowadays, especially when it rains, or especially when it comes onto mountain and there's a peak traffic as well. We normally see that every mountain the traffic is crazy leading up to and on payday. So this did not come as a surprise to me because, like I said, you see it on a regular basis, right? Now, the main choke point is South Street because with South Street, there's not enough alternate roads that takes you onto South Street or allows you to exit South Street. There's only one, and that is Walker's Road, right? So the traffic on a daily basis is terrible in the mornings and it's terrible in the evenings. And credit to the Old Harbour Traffic Department. They have tried their best and they continue to try their best in minimizing the impact of the traffic situation on South Street and throughout the town. But the reality is that there is not enough alternate roads whereby you can divert and go about your business without going through the town center. That's just the reality. So until when we build more roads, you will not see the traffic situation ease anytime soon, right? So just to give you an idea how terrible the traffic can be, especially along South Street. Last year, November, it was raining cats and dogs from in the morning right throughout the day into the night. And my driver was stuck in traffic on South Street at the train line. And it took him 3 hours from the train line to get to the Lion Civic Center, to pick me up at the Lion Civic Center. Normally, that's a 5-minute drive. And I get it. It was raining all day. But it also highlights another issue, which is the inadequate drainage infrastructure in the town. Because if we had adequate drainage system, then a lot of the vehicles will be able now to go through much easier, right? So that is also another concern. Similarly, if there's an issue that impacts the flow of traffic between Marley Mount and Gutters, you can be stuck in traffic for many hours too as well. The lack of alternate roads between Gutters and Marley Mount is also a big issue. So I believe that the National Work Agency, the Urban Development Corporation, the Ministry of Local Government, the Member of Parliament, and other stakeholders, they all need to come together and design a modern spatial plan. The issue of spatial planning in Old Harbour is not just an Old Harbour problem, it is a Jamaica problem. And that is something that I think we need to fix now. If we don't, I believe that future generations of this community will endure a very long period of suffering for perhaps their entire lives living here. So a lot of the persons who are planning to come to live in the Old Harbour space, because of the vast amount of housing developments being built, they have to also consider this traffic situation, because what is going to happen is that you're going to be spending more time on the road. So it will take you a while to get out of your home and go about your business, because there's just too many vehicles and insufficient roads. And by the time you get to Kingston or wherever, of course, there'll be traffic there as well. And I mean, it's just going to be very hectic traversing from Old Harbour Town to Spanish Town to Kingston. Brace yourself for that. I can tell you from now, unless the authorities build new roads where it is easier for you to get in and out of your home and to and from the town. And another matter that is of high priority based on the respondents, 55 votes went to the call for a new hospital. So despite us having a new type 5 clinic currently being built, a lot of persons in the community believe that we need to build a hospital. 55 votes also went to greater access for water. They want consistent water supply, and there are many communities that do not have access to water in their homes. So now, if you believe there is no need for a hospital in the Old Harbour space, I would love for you to share your opinion in the comment section. Now, according to the expert at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, when they were planning and then break ground for the new health center in Old Harbour, they were of the view that Old Harbour doesn't need a hospital, one, and in fact, they don't think that Portmore needs an hospital. But the issue as it relates to whether Portmore needs a hospital or not is a whole topic by itself. But they argue that because of the national development plan now taking place across the health facilities across the island, they don't think that Old Harbour needs it, because Mapen is being developed, Spanish Town is being developed, and I'm talking about Mapen Hospital and Spanish Town hospitals. Those hospitals are being expanded and improved, and so they believe that there's no need for Old Harbour to have a hospital. But I am with the persons who think that we need a hospital. Why? There are many communities in developed countries with a hospital that is serving an area of 100,000 people. I mean, take for example in Queens, there's a hospital in the community known as Elmhurst. The hospital name is Elmhurst Hospital Center, and this is in Queens, New York. It has a capacity of 545 beds, and it serves a population of 142,000 people. Right? Now, think about it. In a decade from now, Old Harbour region, that is Southwest St. Catherine, will surpass 100,000 residents. And this is based on the number of housing solutions that is currently in the pipeline. Right? So if you're a private developer, private investor, given that there's no hospital in the Old Harbour space, maybe you should be thinking of building a private hospital in the Old Harbour space, because you will make some good money from that, because it is something that is a need. Now, look at the issue of water. We have enough natural aquifers, but a lot of these aquifers are in the north, in the hills. Most of the communities have running water in their pipes. But funny enough, the communities that exist, most of the communities that exist to the north of the town, the Boys Content, the Banista, the Red Ground, the Bartons, a lot of these communities do not have frequent water supply. And in 21st century Jamaica, a lot of these communities have to rely on trucking water to their homes, and it is very expensive, right? So I believe that there needs to be a great deal of concentration on rehabilitating a lot of those wells, because there are wells in the Boys Content era. When you talk to residents up there, for example, they will tell you that back in the 80s and 90s, they used to have water running in their pipes. That is no longer the case, right? So water and a hospital is a high priority for the residents in Old Harbour. Next on the list is the need for a new high school, community park, a public beach. You know, these suggestions receive moderate support, each of them getting anywhere between 30 and 40 votes. Let's look at the demand for a new high school. This is something that is long overdue. There are about 12 to 13 government primary school within the Old Harbour space, within the constituency, and there are about 2 or 3 private primary institution of learning. Monsignor Colin Bryant Prep comes to mind, and Exceed Prep. Those are 2 private institutions. So you're talking about 14 or so primary institution of learning in the constituency. But there's only one high school, and that is the Old Harbour High School. Now, the Old Harbour High School population is around 2,500 students. And if you should take into consideration that this is the fastest growing town, then where will the children of these new residents go when it is time for them to matriculate to high school, right? There have been talks about getting rid of the shift system. Old Harbour High School will be one of the last school, if not the last school, to do away with the shift system, because there needs to be a new high school. If there is no new high school, then Old Harbour High School cannot come off the shift system. I can tell you that from now, right? So the people are saying we need a new high school. And funny enough, I remember in 2017, Prime Minister Andrew Holness broke ground to commence the construction of the villages of Colbeck. And in outlining the plans for the Colbeck area, he made mention that a new high school is part of that broader developmental plan for the area. But from 2017 to now, that's what? 8 years later, we haven't heard anything since then about a new high school for the constituency. This is a need. You know, this is not a want, it is a need. We cannot continue to develop as a community without a new high school being built, right? Or else we're going to find ourselves in a lot of problems. It is something that I hope that the authorities will expedite, especially with the Ministry of Education talking big that, you know, they plan to get rid of all the 2-shift system. The schools operating on 2 shifts, and therefore we should see schools like Old Harbour High moving to a single shift. But that is easier said than done. And given how things look, I don't see that happening anytime soon for Old Harbour, because we haven't been hearing anything about it. Now, with regards to having a modern recreational park, you know, think about Emancipation Park, think about Hope Gardens, you know, think about the Harmony Cove public beach in Montego Bay. Old Harbour is deserving of such amenities. I mean, where in the world you see a thriving township being developed, and you don't hear of plans to build a community park? And I would say a community park no less than 10 acres in size, right? A proper public beach. I mean, we're on the coast. The public beach down at Old Harbour Bay is something that I think we can develop and should, you know, move resources and get private sector support and develop the Old Harbour Bay public beach, right? I can think of the many benefits of having a recreational park and a public beach. And just right off the top of my head, you're talking about health and wellness, you're talking about the psychosocial benefit, you're talking about the environmental benefits, you're talking about also the economic benefit of it, right? These are things the members of the community are saying that, we want to see these things happen, right? So hopefully the authorities will now sit down and put plans in place and start to execute on these plans. Okay. Now, the least of concern on the list still got some votes, but not so much of a major concern to the respondents is the need to have a new government town center to construct a multi-purpose sports complex and you know invest more in agriculture and also build more houses. When you look at, well, let us look at a new government town center. So we see the government build one in Morant Bay. Looks lovely, and I think, well, I not even think last year the our member of parliament Everett Warmington mentioned made mention of the construction of a government town center, and he had identified that area from the Jamaica boiler soybean warehouse. So it would include that land that was the original Ascot racetrack. So they will know the government town center is a one-stop shop. So you will have the post office, the market, the library, the tax office, the police station, the courthouse, the fire station, all of those facilities, right, that we consider to be government run facilities will now move to that one location, and it will make it so much easier for people to do business. I like the idea. I think if we can get that done, it will alleviate some of the traffic issue, and you now can look to develop those areas into maybe shopping centers or commercial complex, whatever. I like the idea, but after ground was broken for the construction of the new health center, we haven't heard anything about the government town center. Also, the construction of a sports complex. Now, we have 60,000 people, and we are projected to even grow more. So you're talking about a mini stadium. What about a mini stadium that can hold about 10,000 or 15,000 people, right? It doesn't have to be a lot of concrete and steel. You just need some of those aluminum seatings like what exists in over by Prison Oval. In fact, I remember when I went to Canada many years ago, and I went to the Montreal Sports Center or sports complex or football stadium. I can't remember the exact name, but it was in Montreal. And they had a stadium, and the seating, it was all aluminum seating. Very little concrete and steel that was just left for the changing rooms, right? And you have a mound behind both goals, and that easily the capacity was anywhere between 8 or 10,000 people the stadium could hold. And so I think something like that, I could see that being built here in Old Harbour. We could see an arena or something similar to the National Sports Centre being built as well. And you perhaps maybe ask yourself, how you're going to manage that and all of that. The blueprint exists at Independence Park Limited. They are the operators of the National Stadium Complex. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's something that can be done. It is being done. We just need to put the staff, ensure they are trained, and we manage it just the same way how the National Stadium Complex is being managed by IPL. Also, many people believe that they want to see more investment in agriculture. Now, we have an advantage here in Old Harbour because the Borders Research Centre is based here in Old Harbour. The Borders Research Centre is the country's premier research facility when it comes down to agriculture, right? So, and even though that receive only 13 votes, there are persons within the community who believe that there needs to be greater investment in agriculture in the community. And I think the authorities at Borders Research Centre can look to create programs that will incorporate more of our youth into some of these initiatives. because agriculture is big business. It is a multi-million-dollar business. And I think if we can look to, well, I would love to see the Borders Resource Center create a program that attracts the youth. They can target the youth at the primary schools, and then they can target those at Old Harbour High School. Old Harbour High School has a very good agriculture program as well. The principal is a trained teacher and specialist in agriculture. So I think that's a win-win for everybody there. Now, so we can do that. We can do that. And I think that is something that we should look towards. But there you have it. This is just a snapshot of what the people in Old Harbour are currently thinking, and hopefully the authorities will hear this message and at least inform us as to what are their plans to advance some of these projects, because we like to hear. The people want to hear. So let's see. This is what the people want. They would like to see these things happening sooner rather than later. All right. So there you have it. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. See you next time.